Hello, in this video we're going to take a look at part 1 of the Reading and Use of English paper in the Cambridge Advanced exam. Part 1 is the multiple choice cloze as a kind of grammar exercise. Now in terms of what's expected of you here, you have a short text with many gaps. There are 8 gaps through the text, and for each gap you have 4 choices, different words. So what are they testing you here? Well, the main part of the test really is about knowing shades of meaning. For some of the gaps you'll have 4 words that are very similar in their meaning, but only one of them fits the context perfectly. Either because the words mean slightly different things, or when you look at the words either side of the gap, only one word fits grammatically. And that's really what the test is. Now, Cambridge recommends that before you start this part of the test, you read through the text. And if you feel you would have time to do that, you can. But I don't recommend it for most of my own students because the whole reading and use of English paper is very short. And you don't have a lot of time to do each part. Where you can save time, you should try to. And one way you can save time is by trying the task first and reading the sentence later when you've put one of the words in the gap. So you put a word in the gap, you read the sentence and you see if it makes sense, if it sounds right. At CAE level you should have a good ear for how the language works, and if you read your new sentence and it doesn't sound right, change the answer, see if it sounds any better the next time. So look at the sentence and try to understand the context of the gap. What kind of information is being presented? Think about phrasal verbs, think about, like I said, the shades of meaning between the different options, and go for the one that fits the gap grammatically. Now in terms of technique before the exam, if you want to prepare fully for this and the other parts, I really recommend that when you learn vocabulary, you kind of explode each word. Look up new vocabulary in a good dictionary. I recommend the Merriam-Webster dictionary online, or as an app you can download for your phones. The reason I like this dictionary so much is that they do have a wealth of other synonyms as well as antonyms for every word that you might come across, and each one includes some examples on usage, because really it's the usage that you're being tested for. So with that all in mind, I'd like you to follow the link in the description to this video, download the PDF. We're looking at sample paper 2, and the first part is on page 20 of the document. So have a go at that, come back in a minute and we'll look at the answers together, see where they come from. Okay. So, you've had a chance now to look at the task. Let's go through the answers together and see where they come from. And for number 1, the word we want is D, commodity. So this is a great example of what I mentioned before of the shades of meaning. Provision, utility, material and commodity are all part of a family of words. But in this context, where we talk about something that is bought and sold, commodity is the only one that fits. A provision could be a food stuff that people buy or sell, like flour, because they want to eat it, but you don't really eat salt on its own. It's not a utility in the way that maybe oil would be, or some form of power. And it's not really a material that can be used, for example, in building. So commodity is the right answer here. In number 2, we want D, equivalent, because we're not looking for something that is simply similar. We want something that's exactly the same as oil for us. So we look at the context of the sentence, of the gap, and we see that we want something with equal meaning. Equivalent is the right answer. For number 3, we want B, demanding. If we look at the context, we see that after this it says it was frequently dangerous. So the work was dangerous, and we want a word that shows that it was physically difficult, and demanding fits that gap. And number 4, the answer we want is A, regarded. B looks like it could be right, admired, but it's not the job that was admired, it would be the person that's admired. The job itself was highly regarded by other people. For number 5, we want A, exploited, because we exploit something, we take advantage of it, we get the most possible use from it. So this is the only word that fits that context. And for number 6, we want C, beneficial. Something is beneficial if it helps people to do something. So here it helps patients to relax, so it's beneficial in that process. In number 7, we have a selection of different phrasal verbs to choose from. The one that we want is be turned over, because the next word after this gap is to, and then the noun phrase, different commercial enterprises. So we can see that we're turning something over to somebody. And this is the only one of the phrasal verbs that really fits that context. And then finally in 8, the answer we want is C, ensure. So it's essential to ensure visitors' safety. So this is the only word that means take care of. The other words just don't fit at all. So that one's quite clear. Okay, so as we saw, those little techniques certainly help. It's all about shades of meaning, getting from the context exactly what the word or expression in the gap needs to mean. Sometimes, if it helps, when you look at a sentence, you can take away some of the language. You can remove the adjectives, for example, because they sometimes obscure the meaning, make it harder to understand the sentence. And also look at the way the punctuation is used and the clauses are formed, so you can see the meaning of each part of the sentence, and that will give you a better understanding of the context of the gap as well. Okay, so that's all we have for part 1. In the next video we'll look at part 2, which is the open cloze.